program are not those of intellectualradio.com. It's
Hello, hello. Welcome to Warriors Talk with author and founder Lady ReShell, where we move away from awareness towards action. It's Health and Wellness Monday, and our topic for today is discovering purpose through pain. We are live on Intellectual Radio. We just heard from the Drive FI with Roman. Keep it locked right here on Intellectual Radio and allow us to feed your brain. On the last episode of Warriors Talk, I spoke with Tonille M. Jackson, and she talked about her new docu-series and her single, I Survived It All. Head on over to YouTube and type in Intellectual Radio. Stay connected for any episodes you may have missed. The quote of the day is, hurt often holds the key to unlock your greatest healing. Here is your trending topic for today. It is Women's History Month, and we are celebrating today Dr. Hadiya Nicole Green. She is a STEM pioneer, leader, humanitarian, entrepreneur who is introducing the world to the next generation of cancer treatment, cancer charities, and affordable healthcare. She is one of the nation's leading medical physicists and one of the first African American women to earn a PhD in physics. Dr. Green developed a revolutionary cancer treatment that uses laser and nanotechnology to eliminate cancer in mice after only one 10-minute treatment in a 15-day period with no observable side effects. To ensure the affordability of this treatment, she has founded a 501c3 nonprofit organization, the Orwell Lee Smith Cancer Research Foundation, to raise funding for human clinical trials. The Department of Veteran Affairs awarded her $1 million in grant money to do her research. She has been featured in many media outlets such as ABC News, NBC News, New York Times, Ford, and the History Channel. Dr. Green has been distinguished as one of the 100 most influential African American in the U.S. by Ebony and The Root magazines, Top 30 Under 40 in Healthcare, and The Business Insider. If you would like to donate to her, all you have to do is go to oralee.org, and that's ORALEE. If you are tuned in on any form of social media, please like the show, share the show, invite someone else in on the show that you feel may benefit from this valuable information. My special guest today is a licensed professional counselor, a national certified counselor, a board certified telemental health counselor, serving clients in Georgia, Florida, Delaware, and New Jersey via her private practice. She's specializing in empowering women to reach their full potential while supporting their transformation to authentically live their best lives despite life challenges. She also utilizes her 12 years of higher education, teaching experience to develop and deliver relevant and creative courses through her app, Dr. Chalice Teach. In addition to her being enthusiastic about health equity, health disparities, providing diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging counseling. Welcome to Warriors Talk, Dr. Chalice Rhodes.
Hi, Lady ReShell. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well.
Good. I'm so excited about the conversation on today. I know that you're bringing your experience, your wisdom, and your guidance on how to navigate through this breast cancer world.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me.
So I'm so excited. So the topic, discovering purpose through pain.
Ooh,
Now, when you heard that topic, what went through your mind?
Oh my goodness. What went through my mind was just how God has really used me and blessed me to be able to turn unfortunate circumstances into fortunate circumstances. And so, the idea of resilience, our ability to be able to bounce back from life's challenges, and just really feeling blessed that I have been able to do that.
Yes, and I think many women are going to benefit from what you're bringing to the table on today. My first question that I have for you today is, what was your introduction to cancer itself?
Yes. Well, listen, by the grace and mercies of God, I am a breast cancer survivor. I feel so very grateful to be alive because, in 2017, when I had my mammogram, they told me that I had a cyst on my right breast, and nobody made a big deal out of it. They did tell me I had dense breasts, but again, at that time, I did not know that dense breast was a risk factor for breast cancer. So, I just, they said I had to start getting ultrasounds. I would get the ultrasounds. And, 5 years later, that cyst actually did turn out to be breast cancer. I was actually diagnosed with ductal carcinoma in situ in September of 2022. And I had a lumpectomy to remove it. I was like notified September 9th, September 30th. I had a lumpectomy to remove it. And then after 6 weeks, letting it heal, having to get a mammogram to make sure all of the cancer was gone, I then had to complete 22 radiation treatments.
Wow. So there are so many women out here that have dense breasts that don't even know that they have dense breasts, and they may be going to get regular mammograms and not really asking for the diagnostic mammogram. And then also you mentioned that it being a cyst, and then later it turned into breast cancer. I know a lot of women say, "Oh, I had a cyst," and they said, "Don't worry about it. It's okay. It's nothing to be worried about." But yeah, I think it is something to worry about.
Yes, you know what, Lady Rochelle, and especially if you have a family history. See, one thing I want women to know is to ask the elders what your family history is. Ask your elders, does cancer run in our family? Does high blood pressure run in our family? Ask about your health history because it wasn't until after I was diagnosed that I found out that I did have a health history. I do have a health history. My grandmother, my paternal grandmother, two of her sisters had breast cancer and double mastectomies. My grandfather's sister had breast cancer. So had I known my family history, if they would have said to me, "Oh, you have a cyst on your breast," it wouldn't have, it's nothing. I would have said, "No, can we look into this further because I have a family history."
I think sometimes, or do you feel like sometimes people have a family history and they feel like, oh, that's an isolated case. That's not me. And they
Yes.
still just go about their day, their lives like it can't happen to them.
That's a great point. I think that's a point. I think it's also within the Black community, the secrecy, the family secrets, the silence, and that's why I try to really encourage people in our community, really speak up because you really can save a loved one's life or you can really contribute to early detection saves lives. Like I'm a case of early detection saves lives. Thank God, God used that mammogram technology and that ultrasound and the biopsy. I'm very thankful for how he uses doctors because the radiologist that said, let's just biopsy this just to see. I thank God for her because she could have read she could have read the mammogram and said, "Oh, it's just a cyst." But something looked a little suspicious. And when they biopsied it, they said, "We really don't think this is anything. We just want to make sure." When it came back as cancer, they were shocked.
Wow.
Yeah, so I feel very, very grateful. And then, one way that I took and I turned pain into purpose is when I met with the breast cancer surgeon, we're laughing and talking and hitting it off. Dr. Fantasio is her name. So I have a nickname for her. I call her Dr. Fantabulous. Um, but we were talking and she's like, "Wait, what do you do for a living?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm a therapist." And she was like, "We need you." She's like, "I need you." She said, "I have nobody to refer my women to." And let me tell you, when I first heard the word cancer, anxiety flooded my soul. anytime you hear the word cancer, it's very common, and research has proven this, that people that are diagnosed with cancer experience anxiety, depression, stress. Some people experience post traumatic stress disorder, as a result. So when my surgeon said that to me, I was like, oh, God, you want me to turn my pain into purpose and to use my professional counseling career to reach back and to help other cancer survivors. And then I got further confirmation 2 weeks later in my email when one of the insurance companies I was contracted with emailed all of the providers during Breast Cancer Awareness Month to ask if we would become cancer oncology behavioral health specialists. And so they asked us to complete this training program. And I said, oh, this is confirmation. This is what I'm going to do. So, in honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, healing from my own lumpectomy and waiting to receive radiation treatment, I would stay up for days. I was determined to complete this certification program during the month of breast cancer. And I completed the program. So, I added a cancer oncology behavioral health specialty to my private practice.
Oh, wow. I commend you for that because I cannot even begin to tell you how many times I have spoken to individuals that have gone through the cancer journey and was never referred to anyone
Yeah.
and just left to deal with it on their own. I feel like if you get a cancer diagnosis and they're giving you a prescription for what type of treatment you're going to get, then you should be getting a plan for what type of mental health they're going to address because I feel like they both go hand in hand and it has to be balanced in order for the healing to really take place.
Thank you so much for saying that, Lady ReShell. I completely agree with you. And as a cancer oncology behavioral health specialist, we use a screening tool. So if there are any healthcare professionals, healthcare organizations watching, I really encourage you to implement the distress thermometer screening tool. This distress thermometer screening tool takes a holistic look at what the cancer patient, cancer survivor, or thriver, as I like to say, is going through. And it includes the social, emotional, it includes relationships, and it really aligns with what I do in my private practice as a professional counselor because I take a holistic perspective. I believe our mental health, which includes our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors, also includes our physical health and our spiritual health.
I totally agree with that. Patricia said, "Wow, that's great that you did that, going through your own journey. That you were thinking about others, and at the time that you could have been like selfish and be like, no, let me heal first, and then I'll worry about going through that. But no, you were unselfishly thinking about serving others who really need it. What made you get into counseling itself? Because I mean, you have to have a heart to serve. You have to have compassion.
Yes. And going through my own challenges as a child, like I struggled with anxiety as a child. Like I don't, of course, as a child, I don't think I recognized it as that. But when I look back, I'm like, yeah, I struggle with some anxiety of my own and just my own emotions. I was always just very, like emotional, and also looking around me. So looking around me and seeing things that were problems and saying, or wanting someone to give me emotional support, I said, you know what? I'm going to help others. And there was one specific circumstance I could think of, a person in my family, somebody I was like really close to, so fond of. And we, happened to be at our home and she was going through a hard time and she was having a crisis and the therapist, the not the therapist, the EMTs were there to help her. And she looked right into my spirit, kind of just like Dr. Fantabulous Fantasio did when she said, "We need you." She looked into my spirit and she was like, Chalice, she was like, "Help me, help me." And I felt so helpless. I was like only 8 or 9 years old. I felt so helpless. I wanted to help so bad, but there was nothing I could do. And it was in that very moment where I said, you know what? I'm going to help people.
What would you say are the main components of or benefits of the psychosocial oncologists or the care that you would give to others?
Yes. So Support groups are so important. Every line of treatment that any cancer survivor and thriver can get is so important. How my professional counseling services differ from support groups is that my services are trauma informed. I'm also a clinical trauma counselor. They're also evidence based. So the techniques that I utilize are research based techniques. So cognitive behavioral therapy, different trauma techniques that can help people work through those things. That's really like how my services differ. And then what people tell me is what makes my particular service unique is that I'm an actual breast cancer survivor. So I know the experience of what it's like to hear the word cancer. I don't know the experience of chemotherapy. I know the experience of cancer, the word cancer. I know the experience of having a lumpectomy, recovering from radiation treatment, experiencing the severe burns and not being able to lift my arm. This time last year, Lady ReShell, the way you see me lifting my arm, I could not do that last year.
I could totally identify with you about that. And sometimes they don't even tell you that you may not be able to lift it or to work on making sure you're exercising that arm enough so that you can lift it. I can't begin to tell you how important it is to have someone who identify with it, that's able to help you, that looks like you, that's been through it, and they're not just coming off of a textbook or examples from somebody else. It means so much more that you can actually identify with what I'm going through. So when you are prescribing stuff, then I know that it's coming from a place of I really get this. I really know what this feels like.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. And I also do want to highlight because, nationwide, there is a mental health provider shortage, which is exactly why my surgeon said I couldn't find you. I mean, even when I was diagnosed with cancer, I searched for a therapist that specialized in cancer oncology because, as therapists, we go to therapy too. Like, how would we not go to therapy and believe in something that we help others with? So I couldn't find a therapist either that specialized in cancer oncology, behavioral health. So once again, just like when I was a little girl, I became what I could not find so that I could reach back to help others. But what I wanted to say about the mental health shortage, because there is a mental health shortage and there's a shortage of African American providers, just know if your therapist does not did not survive breast cancer or any form of cancer, that does not mean your therapist can't help you. Because as therapists, as licensed professional counselors, we are trained in empathy. So we empathize with people. Not that we have sympathy and feel sorry for people. No, we empathize with people. We really have the ability to really try to put ourselves in a person's shoes and really try to feel and understand what they're feeling. And from that point, we can work with people. We don't have to necessarily go through what the person has gone through to demonstrate empathy and to help them heal and to employ evidence-based techniques that have been proven over decades to help people relieve stress, anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, bipolar disorder.
I think it's refreshing because a lot of times when you're going to doctor's appointments, it could be like just an automatic thing. Okay, draw your blood. Okay, let's get your weight. Okay, let's do this. It could be just, over and over, like repetitive to where you don't feel that empathy there at all. You leave there and you're like, oh, wow. You feel
Oh,
alone.
yes, ma'am. That is another great point. Motivational interviewing is key. My colleague, Dr. Bernice Kennedy, and we developed a multifaceted model of depression in African American women. And one of the things we talk about is training the healthcare profession to be more culturally competent, to have cultural humility when dealing with African American women, because there are proven research studies that have noted that doctors think less. Some doctors, not all doctors, some doctors do think less of Black women, people of lower socioeconomic status, they will sometimes judge people based on the type of insurance they have. So if they see that they have Medicaid or Medicare, or if they're underinsured or have no insurance, they will judge them. Implicit bias is so real. But one of the things that I do is I train healthcare professionals in motivational interviewing and cultural competence. So helping them to collect the information that they need to collect, but with empathy, with care and concern.
Wow. That alone, you going to the doctor and you're not really thinking that, okay, this could be happening behind the scenes. You're just going there to get treated. You want to make sure that you're getting everything that you need to get for what you're dealing with. And I mean, I know people are human, but you just expect you know, to be treated fairly and not to be treated that way. And I know that comes with the training, and sometimes you have to get more than one training until you can actually get into that thought process of treating everybody fairly.
Yes, that is so true. When I was a professor at a university, I was invited to the medical school, and the nursing school to train professionals, to train up and coming medical students in cultural competence, cultural humility, motivational interviewing. So it's so good to see, being a professor in higher education for 12 years, it's so good to see how the medical schools were incorporating this training, for their medical students.
I think if you start them off early, then they can avoid problems down the line.
Yes.
I went to a doctor's appointment to get my annual, and my normal doctor, she wasn't there, so she was out. So they gave me a resident, and she was just like on autopilot with me, and oh God, I didn't like that. And so she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna put you on." She was like, "Oh, your pressure is high. Oh, your heart rate was high." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's always high when I come in. When I first come in, you have to check it again before we leave. I come down, white coat syndrome. That's what my doctor normally does." "Oh, well, that's not in the charts." "Oh, okay. I'm telling you, that's what happens." And
Yes.
she's like, "Oh, your pressure is high." I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna have to put you on high blood pressure medicine and see you." I was like, "Hold on, I'm not taking no. Don't prescribe me no medication for nothing. Like you haven't even touched me. You
Yes.
haven't touched me. We've been in here less than 15 minutes, and you want to put me on all this medicine." She was like, "Because diabetes run in my family." "Oh, well, your heart disease." And I was like, "Yeah, I get all of that. I'm
Yes.
exercising, I'm changing my lifestyle. I'm a vegan, and certain things I don't do." So, and then I left that appointment. I know I probably was kind of rough because my other doctor, she took time with me. We talked. She just took time and maybe this person didn't have the time, but she actually took time to go through everything with me.
Yes.
And when I left the doctor's office, I felt empowered with my regular doctor. So she was trying to, because I was like, "No, no, no." She was like, "Are you just against taking any kind of medication?" I said, "When you've been through chemo and you've been pumped toxins in your body, you're just not going to take medicine. What else? What are we doing?" So I
Yes.
left that appointment, and then, they send a survey out and they say, survey this doctor's appointment. I gave her all zeros. I wrote a long paragraph about what happened. She called me and she said, "Hey, I just, when the survey came through and they called me, I knew who the patient was. She knew it was me."
Oh,
She said, "Because I know our interaction was not pleasant, and I just wanted to see how I could have done differently." And
oh,
so I just told her, I said, "You were on autopilot when I came in there. You didn't take any time with me at all." She actually apologized. She said, "I'm a resident. We only have so many time with patients, and so I have to see so many a day." So she said, "Yeah, a lot of times we are on autopilot because I'm probably not going to see you again like your regular doctor would. So I'm going to be quick. And some of the stuff in the notes, she may not, it may be far back in the notes that she may not see right away, So she did apologize. And
nice.
she said, if you're okay with me wanting to, see you again and we can try to establish, a relationship or whatever. I'm like, certain things take time. When you comfortable with a doctor, you can come in and you may not have an elevated heart rate because you're comfortable with that doctor. You're comfortable talking to a doctor. And I told her that takes time. So
Yeah.
I'm not really upset with you because I know that takes time. But when I'm telling you what's going on. I'm trying to tell you what's going on with me. You're not listening because all you just ready to prescribe me stuff. And I'm just like, oh no, buddy, we're not. No, you don't even
Yes,
know me. You haven't drawn any blood, none of that.
yes.
Like, no.
And
So yeah.
you see how you said that she explained that they only have that limited amount of time. And that's exactly why that medical school invited me to teach motivational interviewing, because motivational interviewing helps to gather information quickly, but with empathy, care, and understanding. The bedside manner is so important, and she said that it was because she was a resident. Imagine when we have actual medical doctors and we have that experience, because I have had that experience. And then the other thing in the Black community is that a lot of Black people will say they prefer to have a doctor that looks like them. And many of us live in areas where we don't have doctors that look like us. I'm trying to think at this current moment, do I have one? I don't have not one Black doctor. When I lived in Georgia, all of my doctors were Black. I was like absolutely amazed. I live in New Jersey now. I lived in Georgia for 7 years. So I grew up with, I think out of my whole life growing up in New Jersey, I only ever had one Black doctor. He was a Black male doctor. So it was a complete shift for me when I moved to Georgia and all of the doctors are Black. I was like, oh my goodness, this is unheard of. And along that trajectory, I want to say for women or men who are looking for a Black therapist, they have therapy directories out there. And I love these therapy directories because you can search for a therapist that looks like you. You can search by your state, by your zip code, by the type of insurance you have, by whatever it is you're struggling with. If you go to these directories, so one that I really love is therapyforblackgirls.com. You don't have to be a girl. If you're a man and you're looking for a therapist, you can go on there. You get to see the therapist picture. You can go to the therapist website, check the therapist out. Taraji Henson, she has the Lawrence Boris Foundation. She has a directory. Color and Hue has a directory where you can search for doctors that look like you. I know that's something that's very important in our community. So I wanted to share those resources.
It is. I just want to shout out some of the individuals that are listening. You got Tracy, Patricia, Kenya, and we have Dawn. Thank you guys for listening and contributing your input. Kenya said, I get so sick of hearing that you only have a 5 minutes with a patient. It's not going to clear up everything. You're going to miss something.
So true.
And I think this is why it's important for us you have a responsibility. If you're going through something, if you're experiencing some type of symptoms or something, come with it written down already, or email your doctor ahead of time and say, hey, this is what I'm experiencing. And so the doctor can maybe research it before you get there. But a lot of times we're not forthcoming with what we're going through. And, we get there and we're okay with them just scaling over us and going home like, oh, I'm okay. No, you're not. You're not okay.
Yes. Great point. Kenya, I agree with you. The excuse that, only have 5 minutes, that's not going to work, right? In terms of what you were just talking about, Lady ReShell, we also talk about in a multifaceted model of depression in African American women. Many doctors miss clinically depressed African American woman. You know why, ladies and gentlemen out there who are listening? Because we come into doctor's appointments with our hair laid, we got a cute outfit on, makeup on. We don't appear clinically depressed to them. And so sometimes they don't even ask. Thank God in the healthcare community, they are now starting to integrate behavioral health, thankfully. So hopefully you all are noticing when you go to your healthcare appointment and they ask you those initial questions, hopefully they're asking you a few questions about your mental health. Oh, how are you feeling? Do you feel anxiety? Are you feeling depressed? Have you had any thoughts of wanting to hurt yourself? That's their way of doing a quick screening tool to catch if anyone is going through any mental health symptoms. But if there's a healthcare organization that doesn't use that, and if you're clinically depressed, but you appear at your appointment looking like how you're looking, Lady ReShell, or how I'm looking, or how fly Kenya's looking in her Facebook profile picture, they wouldn't think to say, oh, she's depressed. And the other part with African American women that we talk about in our model, we talk about the strong Black woman archetype. Now, there's a lot in the media where you have a lot of Black women rejecting the strong Black woman archetype. We're wanting to live in our soft season. So I think a balance, it's up to you. But for me, I think a balanced approach, right? Because listen, ladies, it is in our DNA. We can trace this all the way back to slavery, and there are studies where genes are actually passed down through our phenotype. So our Black women, our Black people that have had to survive slavery, had no choice, develop strength and resilient traits. So that is why you do see a lot of Black strength that is inherent. But do we always want to be strong? No. Do we always have to be strong? No. But sometimes we feel like we do. And one of the things we found in this model, Lady ReShell, was that Black women tend to have a difficult time asking for help. And this contributes to clinical depression. Clinical depression is because, listen, we all have times where we all go through stuff. We all feel sad at times. That doesn't mean you have depression. But clinical depression is like a person in the same 2-week period having a certain number of symptoms. So feeling sad, loss of motivation, fatigue, trouble sleeping or eating, a weight gain or weight loss, suicidal thoughts, thoughts of actually wanting to kill yourself, passive suicidal thoughts, thoughts of, you know what, I wonder if I just didn't wake up tomorrow, what would happen? That's what we would consider a passive suicidal thought. Of course, your lab work, would have to rule out that there were no underlying medical conditions, because I will share that thyroid disorders are typically a disorder that can mimic anxiety or depression symptoms. So, for everyone listening out there, when you go for your annual exam, I would advocate for yourself and request for your doctor. If you're feeling anxious or sad or depressed, there's nothing wrong with asking your doctor if you can have a thyroid function panel. Just make sure your thyroid is functioning properly. And then the other test to ask for is a vitamin D test. Because listen, the beautiful melanin in our skin keeps us from absorbing the sun. So I read a study like up to 75% of Black people have low vitamin D levels, and we don't even know it. And it's not necessarily that you're not getting out in the sun. Of course, getting out in the sun is good, but it's because our skin, the melanin in our skin does not allow us to absorb the vitamin D from the sun. And low vitamin D levels can look like depressive symptoms as well. So that's why I said I'm really like holistic and believe in mental, physical, and spiritual health.
Yes, I like that versus just trying to shove medicine down my throat. Like I look at the whole person. Like look at everything that's going on before you make that decision. Some people may need to be on medicine. They may not be able to function without it. And some people may need other things to be done or looked at before you go that route. Like I said, we have a responsibility to do things for ourselves and to let the doctor know what's going on.
Yes.
Um, I just want to read Dawn's comment. She said when she has declined medication, she was told that she was rebellious.
Oh, wow. Well, let me tell you, Dawn, you are not alone, Dawn, because there are many studies that show that, for instance, when I say mental, physical, and spiritual health and studies that I've read, there are some Black women, well, in the Black community, there is a high level of spirituality. And in the studies that I've read, there are some women that would prefer prayer over medication. Some people, and I'm talking in terms of, breast cancer research and mammograms and, having to take chemotherapy. Some people will prioritize their relationship with God, because we know religiosity and spirituality are two different things. Religion is an organized religion, Church of God in Christ, Baptist, non-denominational, but a spirituality is our relationship with our higher power, our God. So for me, I'm a Christian woman. My relationship with Jesus, my relationship with God, my relationship with the Holy Spirit, whatever that is for you, So people use different techniques. But let me tell you, In terms of anxiety, stress, depression, there are all natural ways, there are all natural things we can do to help feel better, to naturally release the serotonin, the dopamine, the oxytocin in our brains. Exercise, getting 150 minutes of exercise a week. If you think of that as 30 minutes, 5 times a week, okay, where you're really getting your heart rate into a fat burning zone. Also, doing strength training 3 times a week. We need to really watch what we're eating and our diet. There's like high levels of, like you said, Lady ReShell, high blood pressure, diabetes in our community. So, obesity contributes to many physical health disorders and even plays a role in cancer as well. So, we can work on controlling our weight, making healthier choices. I mean, you don't have to be perfect, but even if you started with something small and change something small, maybe incorporating more whole grains, more brown rice, more brown pasta, incorporating more fruits and vegetables.
I haven't gotten to the brown pasta yet.
No.
Not yet. I've seen it. I've looked at it, but I'm like, I don't know. But
It's not
yeah,
bad, Lady ReShell. Listen, I switched over, I don't know, about 20 years ago. I switched over. Not that I don't eat white pasta, but I do prefer now. I got used to it. So I don't eat too much pasta and rice, but when I do, it's a little adjustment, but it's worth it because you get your whole grains in there as well. So the fiber is good to help, if you struggle with constipation or just to keep your system flowing.
yes, and I don't like to use the word diet, so I always say it's a it's a choice, like a daily choice. It's something that you choose daily to do, and it may not be, like you said, you may not be perfect at it, but you can practice it every single day, doing something little to change and make healthier choices. You'll thank yourself later in your years when you're able to be mobile and able to do things with your grandkids and get around. Nobody's pushing you around. You're not on a cane, and you're able to do stuff for yourself.
I
So
love that, Lady ReShell. What I hear you saying when you say practice these things. So now we're talking about habits. When the new year hit, a lot of people have these New Year's resolutions. How about if we develop habits that, like you said, we do a little bit each day, and the more, consistency is key. The more consistent you are, it'll create a habit, and then your consistent habits will create what you're talking about, Lady ReShell, which is lifestyle change. So yeah, let's not call it a diet. How about we make some lifestyle changes?
and then you look at the people who are watching you. If you have children, they're watching what you do, so you're actually helping them as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Dawn is agreeing. She says, absolutely. Patricia said she would love to have the information about counseling. She did mention some counseling. I think, was it Black Girl Counseling was one of them?
Oh, so one of the resources. So, well, first I'll start with myself. If anyone listening lives in Georgia, Florida, Delaware, or New Jersey, and you're interested in telehealth counseling, which is virtual counseling via Zoom, I am available to help you. And then if you don't live in any of those states, or, if you just want to explore other therapists, because listen, as a therapist, we want you to find your great fit. When you find your great fit in a therapist, let me tell you, you can do some great life-changing work. So most importantly, it's important to find someone that you can build rapport with. Now, directory. So therapyforblackgirls.com. That I love that directory. Um, you can Google the Boris Lawrence Foundation. They also have a directory. And then Color in Hue is another directory, and you can search by, you can see the doctors, or the therapist picture. You can read about their background. I encourage you to click on their websites, go to their websites, learn more about them. I know that I offer a free 15-minute video consultation. So if someone thinks they may be interested in receiving therapy from me, reach out to me through my website, drchalice.com, send me a message, and then we'll set up a time for a free 15-minute video call like this. And we'll briefly talk, and you'll be able to get a feel for my personality. So, you should be able to do that with any therapist. Like, they may not offer video, but they may offer a phone call, and listen, Be patient with the counseling process, because sometimes you don't always get your match, your person that first time around. So don't give up on a counseling process. Just try someone different. And we as therapists, we don't take any of that personal, because really, we just really want you to find your fit. When you find your fit, you can do some great work. And there's no need for us to be out here struggling alone.
I totally agree with that. My daughter, my 17-year-old daughter, she's a type 1 diabetic. So she was diagnosed at 11, but this is I call it a grown person's disease that she's diagnosed with. But she told me, she was like, "Ma, I want to see a counselor." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Girl, you don't need to see no counselor." And then I had to sit back and think about it. I'm like, "Okay, wait. She's asking for a reason.
Yes, ma'am.
Certain stuff I can't help her with. She can only talk to me for, about certain things, and certain things she maybe don't want to share." And then I had to just sit back and say, okay. It kind of hurt me though, because I was like, why does she need to speak to, like, what's going on? And
Yeah.
so I just set her up, and she did it via telehealth. And I think she had maybe about 8 sessions with the counselor, and she talked. And I feel like she's doing much better. And the option is still open if she needs to do it. But we have to make sure that we're not shaming people or dismissing people when they say because it takes a lot for them to come to you to say that they need a counselor. I don't know how long she may have been holding on to it before she just said she wanted to see or talk to somebody. So make sure that we create an environment that's welcoming, to where people can open up to say if they need help. And just because you need to talk to a counselor or therapist doesn't mean that you're crazy. It just means that you need some help. You have some things that you may not can sort out yourself, so you go to a professional to help you.
Lady ReShell, I love that. I love that you were open to your daughter's request, because we do have to be very real and talk about the stigma in the Black community surrounding therapy. It's still alive and well. It's getting a lot better, but you will hear Black people in the community say, "Oh, therapy, that's for white people." No, therapy is for people. It's not a white thing. It's God bringing people on this earth to specialize in different things, to help us in different areas. And in the Black community, there's a lot of shunning of emotions, because, again, dating back to slavery, right? Think of slavery. You're just trying to survive. You're just trying to live. You're just trying to keep your family together and not have your family be broken. We face racism, discrimination, high levels of poverty. So many Black people were just trying to survive, trying to have food on the table, clothes on their back, shelter. So one of the last things many Black folks were thinking about were emotions. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, he has this pyramid. And at the very foundation, we have to have our basic needs met. Emotions is not there. It's physical, shelter, clothing, food. So just imagine, when you're focused on those things, you're not focused on emotions. And some of us may even have had people in our family tell us or shun our emotions. Like when you say, like, if we expressed emotions, they may have shunned your emotions, or hey, some people may have told you straight up, "Oh, nobody cares about your emotions," or "Nobody cares about that," or they may have showed you or told you in indirect ways, or maybe you tried to reach out for emotional support, and guess what? They didn't have the capacity to give you the emotional support, because maybe they never received it from their parents. And then it becomes a generational thing. So a lot of times emotions are not openly discussed in minority families, most definitely not in the Black community. So this stigma, this all contributes to the stigma of talking to a therapist, and then if you enter, spirituality, in religion, some religions don't believe in mixing the two. Some religions believe that just a particular religion is sufficient. So there's all kind of things that go into the stigma of this. But I love what you said, Lady ReShell. Be encouraging, support people. Don't shun people, because there's so many people suffering in silence when they don't need to. They just want to have someone to talk to. And while we as parents, sisters, aunts, cousins, we want to be able to be that person, and you could be a support in some sense. Being professionally trained in evidence-based practices, techniques that have been proven to help people alleviate these symptoms, what could be the harm in that? Give it a try. Give it a try.
I totally agree. And you said something earlier that kind of stuck with me, like spirituality, like the people will pray and say, "Oh, I'm going to pray about it," and they wait on God. And like you said, God put people in these places to perform operations, counseling. People have different talents that God has given them to be able to use for His people. And yeah, you still can pray about it and then take action and go and do what you're supposed to do. We always go to the scripture, faith without works is dead, right? So if you're not doing anything, you can have the faith. But if you're not doing anything with that, yeah, you can sit there all day, but God still wants you to be responsible for what you need to do. And it's okay to pray, and it's okay to go to the doctor and say, "Hey, I'm not feeling well today."
Yes. Or in other words, it's okay to have Jesus and therapy.
Yes.
What's wrong with that? Why does it have to be either or? It is your personal preference, but it doesn't have to be either or. It can be both. It can be both. Therapy, just like you go to your medical doctor. Let's see. Dawn is saying, I was raised by very independent women that felt if therapy was needed, you are weak. Dawn, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, because it also plays into the strong Black woman archetype. Yes, it is. It is seen that if you go to a therapist, if you need to talk to somebody, you are not strong, you are weak. And that is what we discovered in our multifaceted model of depression in African American women. Not reaching out for help and not seeking support has so many women clinically depressed, Black women, and they don't even know they're clinically depressed, because we are operating under this guise, we could do it, we're strong, we're resilient, and a lot of times because we had no choice but to be. Over, I think it's about 66%. Trying to remember the research I read. I think it's definitely in the 60s. I think it's 66% of Black households are headed by single mothers. I'm a single mother of two sons. My sons are 12 and 16. When you're a single mother, you don't have any choice. Like, there's nobody else there that's going to help and pitch in and help you do this and help you do that. The power went out in my house a couple days ago, and I went to the switch. I knew, but it wasn't coming back on. And ladies and gentlemen, I prayed. I was like, Lord, please help me figure out this box, because I don't know why the power isn't coming on in this one area. You know what I mean? But we don't reach out for help. We don't reach out for support. So God showed me, and my power came back on. But guess what, ladies? If I couldn't get that power on, I would surely be reaching out for help and support. But Dawn, you are so right. It's a sign of being dependent. It's a sign of being weak. And this is something that we have to change in our Black community, because, ladies, we are human. We can't do it all. We can't be it all. We really can't. And it's okay to say, you know what? I need a break, which is why self-care is so important. And I talk about that so much in my therapy sessions with people. And, when people tend to think of self-care, Lady ReShell, they tend to think of manis, petties, hair color, hair done. That is a part of self-care. But listen, it's a very superficial level of self-care. Now, I help people to delve deeper, to talk about deeper levels of self-care, like creating and maintaining healthy boundaries in relationships, achieving balance, knowing your purpose, walking authentically in who you are. Those are deeper levels of self-care that people don't think about, but that we delve deep into in my sessions.
Well, I like that, because a lot of times we're walking around trying to please everybody, doing everything for everybody, and we're taking on all these different roles and wearing all these different hats. And then when it gets down to us, it's like, you don't have time. You don't really have time to really even do anything for yourself. So I totally agree with you. that the mani pedis, that's one thing. Okay, that's the outside, but you have to do some type of deep soul searching work too in order for it to balance. So the inside of you aligns with the outside of you. Because if you stressed, you're depressed, sooner or later that disease is going to lead to disease.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that. That
I,
is so key.
I totally agree. I totally agree with that. I want to talk about your app because I know that people, if they're not living in those states where you have the private practice, that they can get on the app and they can still take advantage of some mental health resources or courses.
Yes. So I use my 12 years of teaching and higher education experience to make creative courses. So listen, please go to your Google Play Store or your Apple Store and download Dr. Chalice Teach. It's DrChalice Teach. And the very first course that I created, of course, was Thrive Breast Cancer Survivorship, having to give back to my breast cancer survivorship community. And a course that I'm working on now is called Breaking the Chains: How to Break Free from Emotionally Abusive Relationships. I actually will be speaking on this topic at a domestic violence conference in a couple weeks. So yeah, please download the app. Feel free to, the courses are based on um, my private practice is established three on six pillars, and it's in my logo. It's renew, restore, hope, peace, harmony, and vitality. So my courses are designed in those six modules. Even my telehealth groups that I offer for cancer survivors, the 6-week program is designed under the Renew, Restore, Hope, Peace, Harmony, and Vitality. And I'm really using trauma informed, practices, evidence based work, research based techniques, strategies, creative activities to really help people get their healing.
Yeah, I totally agree. You get the physical healing, you need that mental healing. It's just equally as important. Like you said, balance.
Yes, and it includes that holistic perspective. So, touching on the mental health, the physical health, and the spiritual health.
Yeah. How can listeners stay connected to you?
Oh, please visit my website. It's www.drchalice.com. Please feel free to follow my Facebook page. It's Dr. Chalice C. Rhodes. I'm on Instagram, Dr. Chalice C. Rhodes, or at Dr. Chalice. I'm on LinkedIn, Dr. Chalice C. Rhodes. So please feel free. Oh, and also my YouTube channel. Always forget my YouTube channel, drchalice.com. Please feel free to go to my YouTube channel. I did a Pink October series for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I did all of these different talks on clinical research trials, breast cancer disparities in Black women. You can find that on my YouTube channel as well as some other resources.
Awesome. What are some words of wisdom that you would give to someone that's struggling to convert their pain to purpose?
I would say, oh, that's a good question. Converting your pain into purpose. You first want to believe in yourself. We talk about self esteem and we talk about self confidence, but we rarely talk about self efficacy. Self efficacy is the ability to believe that you can achieve that which you set out to do. So you first have to believe in yourself. Believing in yourself will then help you to discover your purpose and to walk in your authenticity, right? Discovering your purpose will help you to walk into your authenticity. You will be able to find your tribe, and your tribe will be able to find you. The more you are able to walk in authentically who you are. So we have to release those negative behaviors of people pleasing, trying to be everything to everybody, like Dr. ReShell said. That's really something that keeps us from really discovering who it is that we are, who it is that we want. Because when you know that for yourself, then when you attract other people into your life, you can attract like minds, you know? Also, resilience is key. Resilience is not extraordinary. Research shows that resilience is ordinary. Resilience is our ability to bounce back from setbacks. It's really important to have a healthy support system. Really reach out for help. healthcare professionals, healthy family and friends, healthy relationships. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. You got to step out on faith and you have to learn. If you don't try it, you'll never know, you know, and really staying connected to your higher power. For me, it's God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, and seeking direction from there. And then, going out into the world is really something that helps me, but whatever works for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your wisdom, your experience, and just for reminding us to speak up and not be afraid to take care of our mental health and remember that we need that balance in our lives. So I appreciate you, and you guys make sure you connect with her. If you're not living in her state, again, you can go to her website, her YouTube page, and you can also go and download the app and look at some of the courses that she has. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much, Lady ReShell. You have a great evening.
You too. Thank you. You guys do not go anywhere. Coming up at 7 p.m. is The People Show with Mark Wallace and Charles Thomas. I am going to highlight my last sponsor on today, which is Gloria Dotson with Mary Kay, and she's catering to all of your beauty needs from head to toe. Go over to the website, marykay.com/GDOTSON. Make sure you tell her that Warriors Talk sent you. Warriors Talk is always looking for guests to come on and share their story. You can inbox me the words "I'm ready" if you are willing to share your story. Meet me here on Intellectual Radio at 6 p.m. every Monday night. And I will leave you with these words of wisdom. Other people are going to find their healing in your wounds. Your greatest life message and your most effective ministry will come out of your deepest hurt. And that was by Rick Warren and The Purpose Driven Life. Meet me next Monday here at 6 p.m. right here on Intellectual Radio. Warriors Talk is changing lives, one warrior at a time.
Thank you for listening to this week's edition of Warriors Talk with Lady ReShell. To find out more about Warriors Talk, follow at Warriors Talk, the number 1, on all social media outlets, and Warriors Talk with Lady ReShell on YouTube. Please join us next week and every Monday evening at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time on intellectualradio.com for Warriors Talk with Lady ReShell, where we encourage, educate, and empower you into action.